Who is Child's on the beat? Best producer in Louisiana. If you don't believe me, go to his YouTube page and check him out. My name is Sidney Combs, and I'm a young entrepreneur from Shreveport, Louisiana with a dollar and a dream. The message for tonight is, back in the days started the future. Back in the days started today. This is a very powerful message, but before I get to this message, I need everyone to hit the like button. I need everyone to share the video with other people. I need as many people as possible to subscribe to my page. It's very important that I'm able to grow this platform. And I can only grow it by you liking the videos, subscribing to the page, and sharing it with other people. Now we got that out the way. Back in the days started today. I hear a lot of times, I hear older people and they talk to the youth. And one of the things people always say, they say, well, back in the days, things were better. I hear that so often in every different aspect of the world. They say back in the days, well, it was better than it is now. And I've always thought throughout my life that back in the days actually started today. Because whenever you see a problem, right, the problem never starts from where you see the problem, okay? The problem started, I give a prime example. Let's say you see a grown-up, right, that has a bad attitude, right? The attitude is terrible. And you look at that and you say, oh man, the attitude is terrible, it's horrible. But when you go back and you find out, well, in childhood, they never got a whooping. They never was disciplined, right? That's what really started the problem. But when you see that result, when they're grown, you forget, but it started in the past. So a lot of the issues that we have in the world right now, they didn't start right now. It was before. So we're going to give a couple of examples. First thing, the crime started to rise back in the day. It peaked from the 70s to the early 90s. But the all-time high was around 91. Crime, okay? Now, in Shreveport, our crime rate last year was at an all-time high, okay? We had the most crimes ever in Shreveport, Louisiana. And most people would say, man, it's dangerous here, man. It's terrible here. And man, I don't understand what's going on with these kids. This, and this. This is what they're saying. But then when you go back and you find out before 2020, 21 crime rate, right? Guess what the worst crime rate was? 93 here. 93 was the record before last year. See, we like to forget about everything that happened before, and we want to make it seem like we had all the answers, but we didn't. You didn't. The answers wasn't there because we had crime that was huge here back in the days. Another issue, I hear a lot of men, they talk, older men, they talk about the men in this generation. And I hear women, and I hear a lot of women say, well, the men in this generation, they don't spoil us the way that the men before did. They don't do the things that the men back in the day did. Well, if you want my personal opinion, I think a lot of those men were soft back in the day. Now, most men before, they would say, no, we was tougher. No, you wouldn't. Because I give you some prime examples, okay? Think about this for a second. Man, if you go back in history, I'm talking about back in the day. You talking about the early 1900s and stuff, and even before then, men went out, right, and took care of their households, and they brought home food for the people to cook, right, for their family to cook, the wives to cook. The husband ate first. You know why he ate first? Because it was his responsibility to make sure everyone else eat. In this day and age, if a woman had the man to play first, man, these people go crazy. Nah, it's about my kids. And what happened was, that was the age. But then once you get to these men nowadays, these men in the 50s, they're in their 50s, their 60s, their 70s. Those men are so soft, man. I'm talking about, and when I say soft, this is what I'm talking about. They, at the end of the day, do everything to cater to a woman. Okay? Everything is designed to cater to a woman. And most of those men that I've been around, I listen to, and they talk, they complain about their wives. They say, man, my wife don't do anything for me. But this is my problem with that, right? Your wife don't do anything for you because all you do is cater to her. She does nothing for you. And then so many men, what they do, they give the women everything. Everything. All those older men. They just give, they give, they give, they give, they give. And all the women do is take and take and take and take and take. Back in the days, those men didn't do that. In the early 1900s, 1800s, they didn't do that. But we got into a day and age where masculinity is frowned upon. It's a crime to be masculine in this day and age. And when I say masculine, I'm not talking about getting into fights with everybody. I'm not talking about controlling your women, making your woman do whatever you want to do. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about being a man, doing what's natural, doing what naturally what men do. That's what I'm talking about. And we're in a day and age where the men are so soft. And you got the young cats this day and age, and all they do is cater to women. Right? But we don't pay attention to, remember the Key Sweats back in the 80s? In the 90s? Remember the Key Sweat men? Remember in the 90s you had your genuine men? Like you remember those guys? Even when you go back in the 70s when you had the Marvin Gaye's. I want you the right way. I want you. And I want you to want me too. Let that sink in. What they doing? What is he talking about? Everything is about catering. And my thing is this. I don't have a problem with the catering part, but are you going to receive catering in return? And we got to a point where that's all men do. Men do nothing but just chase women and chase women and chase women. That's all we do as men. It's like, why are we doing this? And then we wonder why a lot of women act the way they act. They get full of themselves because that's all we do. It chase them. We don't go after our purpose. We don't go after our mission. We don't do any of those things. All we do is chase women. And if you go after your purpose and your mission, you don't have to worry about women. Women will chase you. I was taught that at around 17, 18 years old by my pops. My pops always told me that. He said, son, if you want women, let me tell you what to do. I looked at him like, okay, what's going on? What I need to do, Pops? He said, become the best version of yourself. Get out here and hustle and get your money up. Get your own place. Take care of yourself. Trust me, the women will come. You ain't got to worry about that problem. But in this day and age, what happened is most men, they don't go to become the best version of themselves. All they do is chase women. And when you're doing that, you're a weaker man. Men back in the day didn't do that. What did they do? They went out to provide for a family. They went out to eat and bring the food home. Put a roof over the family head. When in the day and age, well, it's completely different. It's completely different. It's all the men do. And then, like I say, a lot of times people listen to those men that's 50, 60, and 70. Man, I can't really listen to y'all. Now, because a lot of y'all in marriage where you're not even getting sex, you get no sex at all. You're buying the women everything you possibly can buy them, get nothing in return. That's not masculine. It's not masculine at all. Like, man, but what happened is, when you see the kids in this day and age do certain stuff, those men want to talk about these cats. It's like, no, man, the stuff y'all were doing back then. Like, and then they're doing this to just random women. Not even your wife. I don't mind spoiling my woman if she gonna make sure I'm good. I don't mind doing that. But the thing, I'm just going to cater to a woman for a woman just to lay up and just accept me catering to her. I don't care what man telling me that, man. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Then we got to go to another thing about men becoming soft. A lot of people, they blame women and say, well, women are masculine because they get out here and get jobs, this, that, and the third. And my problem with that is this. I don't think women working has anything to do with a man becoming softer. I don't think a woman having a career has anything to do with a man becoming softer. I don't. But what happened is a lot of men, the reason why they soft because they got raised by single mothers. And the single mother, because she had to raise the kids by herself, guess what she had to do? She had to put on some masculine tendencies. And you know what she did? She ended up raising a feminine man. These same men that these women complain about, they raised them. That's a huge issue in this world right now. And see, because a woman act that way had nothing to do with me, I'm still going to compete with the world. I'm still going to get out here and become the best version of myself. I'm still going to be able to pay my mortgage, put food in this house, pay these bills. It's going to happen either way it goes. Had nothing to do with a woman. A lot of men try to blame women. A lot of men, well, women getting their money. What their money got to do with your money? You get out here and become the best version of yourself. That's what I'm all about. Keep being masculine. You don't have to all of a sudden stop being masculine because she goes after her career. And some men feel like, well, I got to stop my woman from having a career. I don't think you got to stop a woman from getting a career. That's what she want to do. That's cool. As long as she understands at the end of the day that, yo, this family come first. As long as you understand that, you can do whatever. I feel like whatever you choose to do. Whatever you choose to do, you go out and do it. As long as you understand that the family come first, good. In the 60s and the 70s, women became promiscuous. Okay? And see, what happens is we see women in this day and age, and they sleep with a bunch of different men, and they have children out of wedlock, and they have 3, 4, 5 different baby daddies, and we want to knock those women and say, well, back in my day it wasn't like that, and I disagree with that. Because in the 60s and the 70s was when women were having sex left and right. You can look that up. Those numbers were starting to grow rapidly. Women were going after their rights. Now, if you want me to be honest with you, a lot of black women, when they were fighting for feminism, it had nothing to do with them, but they fought for it anyway. They fought for it anyway. But when you're looking at this thing, just think about what I'm saying. We look at those women back in the 60s and the 70s, okay? Those women were wild. Those women were using drugs, sleeping with people. Think about the women that was in these bands. They were getting tossed up by all those artists in those groups. Think about even when you go to the 90s when you had Luke Skywalker out here doing stuff, making these songs, had these women dancing in these bikinis. Think about it. And then when we see women in this day and age wear a bikini, we want to talk about them. Man, let's not forget about the past. Can't forget about the past. All that stuff that happened before led up to what's going on today. And what I'm doing right now, this whole video is about letting the youth understand that I understand you. That's not saying that you're right, but I understand you doing what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. Because the people that came before us, they want to make it seem like everything was perfect and it was not perfect. They were making mistakes just like you and I. They were making mistakes just like us. But because they older and they got their stuff together, you know what they want to do now? Now they want to crucify the youth. Give the youth the patience that you got. Because when you was rebelling against your family members, guess what was going on? Your mom and dad was still loving you. They still had your back. But when we see the youth make mistakes, we want to crucify them. And I'm like, man, how? You can have a woman that was out here and she knows she was being ratchet. But then she's still a young girl in her mid-20s and you want to talk bad about her. But you won't forget about what you did in your 20s? You ain't going to acknowledge what you did in your 20s? We going to ignore that. Come on, man. She got most of her ways from you. And you got most of your ways from the person that came before you. See, this stuff, when you really get to thinking about the way this world operates and runs, you start figuring out like, man, ain't nothing new under the sun. Ain't nothing new under the sun. You be thinking, oh man, you know what? That this world is a crazy world, man. It wasn't like this back in the day. And then you go and read the Bible, and the Bible telling you something completely different. The Bible telling you all this stuff was going on back then. In that word. In the Bible. And let me make sure I repeat myself again. I'm not a pastor. I don't care what your religion is. But whatever Bible you read, it talks about all the bad stuff that was going on back in the days. So we try to crucify these youth for what they're doing right now when we were doing the same stuff and the people before us were doing the same stuff. I remember watching movies where men were going to the army, right? And then women were getting pregnant by the men that was around them. Man going to the army to take care of his family and to fight for his country. He coming back and the woman got a child, not even his. Don't even look like he is. He come home and she pregnant. How would you feel if you came home from fighting a war and you see your wife is pregnant? You've been gone for 2 years. You've been gone for 2 years fighting for your country, sending her money, taking care of a household. You come home and your wife is pregnant. But now when we see these women in this day and age doing stuff like that, we want to crucify them but forget what these women were doing in the 60s and 70s, in the time before that. Come on now. Then we go to drug use. Drug use started to rise in the 70s and cocaine peaked in the 80s. And see what happened is there's a lot of older people that you can see the youth that's addicted to weed, addicted to crack, popping pills, right? And we want to knock them. It act like that wasn't in the 70s, everybody wasn't hippies. It act like those people that were living in them 70s, all of them weren't smoking weed or experimenting in other drugs, heroin. Come on, man. But we want to talk about the youth, but everything that happened in the 70s led up to what's going on right now. Everything that happened in the 70s. Go back. Think about Bob Marley. Bob Marley and them having concerts. You can even go to, what's those guys, the Beatles? The Beatles. Them guys was in parks having huge concerts where everybody's smoking weed. Think about Rick James. Rick James doing concerts with weed in his hand. But now we see cats do any little thing and we want to knock them and we be forgetting like, yo, these cats were wild back then. These people were wild. I mean, I struggle to understand it. Then we want to talk about the women in this day and age, like how you hear so many women say, I'm a strong, independent woman that don't need a man, right? And we crucify them, which that's wrong. I don't want no strong, independent woman. I don't. I'm cool with a woman being strong, but she shouldn't be stronger than me. That's the problem right there. Independent? Then why are we together if you're independent? I mean, you don't need to be together if you're independent. You don't need a man? What you with me for then? See, I don't agree with that. But we'll knock these women in this day and age. The strong, independent woman don't need a man. But what about that feminist movement that started in the mid to late 60s and was real strong in the 70s? We gonna forget about that movement? And then in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, when at the end of the day, because there was a woman on YouTube, I won't say her name because I don't do the name calling with people. Unless someone would to point me out, I'm not gonna do the name calling. But she said that the reason why the women end up leaving the household, leaving the men, was because the men lost the jobs. because all the factories shifted overseas. But there was a book called the Moynihan Report. That Moynihan Report speaks something completely different. The Moynihan Report says that what they noticed was there was a lot of people of all races that needed jobs, right? They wanted to get people off of government assistance. So what they started doing was pushing more jobs out so everybody had a job. But what they noticed is when black men was receiving more employment, right? They noticed that the government assistance went up. But what they noticed is that in every other race, when those men got jobs, the government assistance went down. So what happened is a lot of those women chose on their own to be strong and independent. But you got women that don't want to acknowledge that. But the book speaks on it. It speaks on, the statistics. It's called the Moynihan Report. You can pull it up. You can even pull up on your phone and it'll show you a lot of things about it that was inside that book. The Moynihan Report, it talks about it. When the unemployment rate went down in the black community with the men, you saw a spike in the government assistance from the women. But, right, even then, you go to now, right? Guess what's happening? You still have a whole bunch of government assistance that's being done to these so-called strong, independent black women. Let me apologize what I said. Strong, independent women, because it's not just a black thing. Strong, independent women. I normally say black because normally we're talking that way, but it's all women. All women. That's what happened. And these same women that say, I don't need a man, but you're the same person that asks for child support. That's needing a man. Same one asks for government assistance. That's needing a man. Same one when you call a police to come to your house. That's a man you're calling. Calling a fireman. That's a man you're calling. Someone to build your home. That's a man you're calling. But remember, you don't need a man. We all need each other. We all need each other if everybody function the way they're supposed to function. As a man, if you got a good woman, you should need her. If you don't need your woman, she a bad woman. She's not a good woman. As a woman, you should need your man. If you don't need your man, you have a bad man. You have the wrong guy. We should need each other. That's facts. And the 90s went away from the traditional family. The 90s. So when we talk about this day and age, when we see a lot of women say they don't care for marriage and they're not trying to have kids, and if they do have kids, they can have kids go through a sperm bank, or they can get a random guy just to give them a seed and go on about their business, try to raise their boys or girls by themselves. That traditional role, it left in the 90s. 90s was when all that traditional stuff started going away. But now we see in 2022, when we want to complain and talk about these women for not being traditional, but we won't want to go back to the 90s when those women made those decisions, when it really would escalate. Because it was happening in the 80s, but it really would escalate in the 90s. It was happening in the 80s. Happening in the 80s. CBS did a special. I can't remember the name of that special they did in the 80s. And it was about single mothers. It was in the 80s. You might can pull it up if you put a CBS single mothers special. It was a special they did in the 80s. And those women were saying, I don't need a man. And they was talking about, why would I want another man that I got to take care of as a child? If that's the only thing you getting, baby girl, let me tell you something right now. It might be something wrong with you. If all you getting is men that you need to take care of, it might be something wrong with you. Because see, I'm about being about a masculine man. I'm about being in masculinity, the men. And if a man is in masculinity, he shouldn't be relying on a woman to take care of him. If any man looking for me to speak like that, I ain't gonna lie to you, he listen to the wrong person. Because I'm not built like that. No man. I'm not built like that. Unless you got some health issues, and I understand. Other than that, you got your health and strength. You shouldn't sit there and be wanting a woman to take care of you. That's a problem to me. The crime rate will always rise when the finances get tough. In the 70s, when those jobs started going overseas, some of them, in the 80s, I think really with the 80s when it really started going overseas, when most of them was gone. When those jobs started going away, you know what happened then? The crime rate went up because those men didn't have the same opportunity. And when you're looking at 2022, the crime rate is going to keep going up because you got inflation and you got a job that's not paying you enough to be able to take care of yourself. It's a blessing when you're able to take care of your family and you got some money left over in this day and age. It's a blessing. And we don't understand that there's a lot of people that are robbed to do what they need to do. That's why we got to get to a point of sticking together. And we got to understand that the problems we have right now, they did not start right now. They're probably going way back. And I'm only speaking on the 60s and 70s because when I did my research before I did this video, that's what I saw. Things happened before then, but that's what I really kind of focused on, that 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, going into 2000s. That's what I focused on. The purpose of this video is that we have to understand that the problems that we have today, we had those same problems before. The same problem we have today, we had those problems before. So if you're an older man listening to this video, before you try to criticize the youth for the decision and the mistakes they make, understand you made those exact same mistakes they made. See, the solution to this is the older generation has to be patient with the youth. The older generation has to understand that they're going to make mistakes the same way that you made mistakes when you were their age. The same way these kids might make a child or two out of wedlock, the same way y'all were doing it in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Same way. Same way you want to criticize, you might want to criticize your son or daughter for having a bad attitude. Understand you had a bad attitude when you were growing up and still probably do. The same way you might want to talk about your child for not going after their dreams. You didn't go after your dreams when you were their age, and you still ain't going after your dream in your 40s, your 50s, and your 60s. But you want to crucify the youth for the decision that they make. Show them better. Show them better. And when you show them better, still give them the grace. Because at the end of the day, if you're a person that didn't get it together until you were 47, 48, why are you going to expect them to have it together at 25 and 30? You can't expect that. Because you didn't have it together at 25 and 30. Then we talk about children out of wedlock, but some, I'm not going to call no names out, some of our most famous men in the world, greatest men in the world, have children out of wedlock. Didn't build families. They built their own family, then they had another family on the other side of town. The older men know what I'm talking about, but you want to crucify the youth. Then you want to talk about the youth because of how they might act toward women and they might not do the things that you want them to do. But you know why the youth don't want to do the stuff you did with the women? You know why? Because they looked at the stuff you did as a man and they looked at you get played. They looked at you get taken advantage of. Because I've seen this with my own personal eyes. I've seen a godly man taking care of his family, loving his wife, and the wife don't even want to give him sex. You can't make that up. The man taking care of his family, bringing food to the home, and the woman to make food for the kids and herself if she mad at the man, and the man buying the food. But because she mad, and he accepts it. I heard Steve Harvey in his mid-60s, and he said, as a man, if you think you the leader, because this guy, it was on Family Feud. And there was a man, and he asked the man about being a leader, and the man said, well, I pray I'm the leader I need to be. And Steve Harvey said, well, you can keep praying, but that ain't gonna happen. See, why am I gonna listen to a man in his mid-60s telling me I'm not gonna be the leader of my household? See, that's not a masculine guy to me. I'm not listening to that information. You telling me as a man, well, I'm not gonna be the leader of my home? Let it sink in. I'm not going to be a leader of my home. I pay the mortgage. I pay the bills. I make sure everybody good. And I'm not going to be the leader? This man is filthy rich. Everything his family gets or have gotten has been through him. And you telling me he's not the leader of his house? And you want me, a younger man, I'm 39, just turned 39 today. You want me to listen to that? I'm not listening to that. A lot of these older men get to talking, I'm not listening to that. These men sit there and say, man, I do any and everything for my woman. I'm like, man, I don't have an issue with that if my woman do any and everything for me. I don't have a problem with that. And a lot of these younger people, these younger men, that's what they see. And they're like, no, man, I saw my pops get played by my mom. I saw my pops doing everything and my mom just controlling him. Man, these youngsters ain't going for that. These youngsters trying to become the best version of themselves. Or they going to make mistakes along the way? Yeah, they going to make mistakes the same way you made mistakes along your way in your journey. Please have grace and patience for the youth. My name is Sidney Combs, and I'm a young entrepreneur from Shreveport, Louisiana with a dollar and a dream. I need everyone to like this video, share this video, subscribe to the page, repost the video. I'm not asking anyone for Cash App. I'm not asking anybody for PayPal. All I'm asking you to do is to subscribe to the page, like the videos, leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about the message. Whether you agree or disagree, I don't have a problem with you disagreeing with me. Because that's how we have dialect. That's how we understand one another. If I don't want to listen to a person have a comment that's against mine, right? Then what's the purpose of me doing what I'm doing? There's a lot of people that have messages, right? And if you don't agree with them, they don't want to hear your side of your point of view. I want to hear your point of view. Who at Childs on the Beat, best producer in Louisiana. If you don't believe me, go to his YouTube page and check him out. Also, check me out on Facebook, check me out on Instagram, check me out on TikTok also. Because I have different videos for each platform. My name is Sidney Combs, and I'm a young entrepreneur from Shreveport, Louisiana with a dollar dream. Thank you.